Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So today we're going to be going over some very interesting topics surrounding this agency right here, the U.S. Agency for Internal Development, or USAID. Now their goal is to spend their nearly $50 billion a year budget on advancing U.S. interests in helping push these global agendas that's supposed to make the world a better place. Now recently, thanks to the current administration in the United States, they have been completely slashed. They have had 97% of their employees laid off. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, Rev, why do I care about this? Well, if you're an American, it's easy. A very large amount of your tax dollars are going to wasteful programs that we're going to look at in just a second because of groups like USAID. And if you're not an American, you should care as well, because these initiatives that they're pushing on a global level, they are some of the most wackadoo and woke programs you will ever see. But there's one particular thing that affects everyone, American or not, and that is their funding of various journalists who have been attacking gamers for over a decade, trying to subvert and change your hobby. And that is something we can all feel the impact of. And we're going to look at right now some of these insane programs just to get you a little sense of what they're doing at this wonderful agency. So here's some of the examples of waste and abuse. $1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces. $70,000 for production of a DEI musical in Ireland. $2.5 million for electrical vehicles in Vietnam. $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. $2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for a non-profit linked to a designated terrorist organization, even after an inspector general launched an investigation. And if you want to see a photo that speaks 1,000 words, just look at this. It's absolutely insane, the level all of this goes. And here's another example that's been floating around on social media. $8 million to study the effect of flavored cigarettes on bisexuals and lesbians. Here, I'll give you a little wisdom. Smoking is bad for you. Can I have $8 million now? Like, that's how ridiculous this is. Let's look at a few more examples of what they funded. $7.9 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language. $20 million for a new Sesame Street show in Iraq. $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. $1.5 million for art for inclusion of people with disabilities. $2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. $6 million to transform digital spaces to reflect feminist democratic principles. $2.1 million to help BBC value the diversity of Libyan society. As you can see, there's a lot of focus on journalists. Like, why are we paying so much for these journalists across the world? And on top of that, as a reaction to this, Reporters Without Borders is freaking out. Journalists across the world are freaking out because they're seeing their cash cow get ripped away. They're now going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars a year. As you can see, for these independent, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes here, independent news sources here, they received almost $300 million last year for what exactly? Having the ability to make their articles? I have absolutely no idea. But I want to give you an example of one of these independent news agencies that are being helped out with USAID. So right now, you can see this group called Internews Network, which has received about $500 million in grants over the past couple of years alone. And they're some sort of outlet that is producing in 1 year almost 5,000 hours of broadcast, reaching up to almost 1 billion people, and they train over 9,000 journalists, and they support social media censorship initiatives. And you can see, again, this absolutely insane award that they've had, and most of it over the past couple of years. Now, looking at the other initiatives that USAID has funded across the world and how woke and just clown world they are, why do you think they chose Internews Network for all of this? Clearly, their agenda lines up with whatever they're trying to do at USAID. And to make matters worse, people have looked into the addresses and things provided through various data sources here. And this is one of their big headquarters. It's a literal shack. For a company that's getting hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars, this is what they have to show for it. Yeah, does this not look like money laundering? Ladies and gentlemen, this is absolutely insane. And on top of that, as discovered by some users, the director at Internews Network also serves as the VP of Communications at Reddit. Doesn't that make a lot of sense given the way that Reddit functions? But anyways, the one group that a lot of people have been talking about, we've seen Asmongold and a lot of other channels talk about this and bring a lot of attention to, Politico. This is a group that got about $8 million from USAID and also other awards. Now, a lot of people are very furious about this because for many years, Politico directly has been going after gamers. As you can see from this post, people have wondered if our tax dollars were used to promote wokeness in video games, and the answer is yes. USAID paid Politico millions per year to write pieces like this one, which promotes diversity and describes Gamergate as a disinformation and harassment campaign. And obviously there's not enough time to talk about Gamergate, but basically know this. There was a big push just over a decade ago by feminists and journalists to basically single out gamers, make them the boogeymen, try to say that they're all racist and misogynist, and the industry has to basically push them out and also make games tailored towards a more, let's just say, sensitive group of people. You can see their description here. 6 years ago, a disinformation campaign with the profoundly stupid name of Gamergate spent several months orchestrating a series of harassment campaigns of women game developers and critics. Several women fled their homes in fear for their safety. The harassers' motivation to drive people they dubbed social justice warriors for their own progressive values and their desire to see more realistic depictions of women and minorities in video games out of the industry. Yeah, how does that sound? It sounds absolutely insane, and we've been dealing with the repercussions of this for many years. Now, as Grums points out here, you search the name Gamergate on anything associated with Politico, you get dozens of results. You get tons of results over and over again for years and years and years. And one of the more sinister things that happens here with sources like Politico is they legitimize things that aren't true. So they're a quote-unquote trusted news source. So when they say something about Gamergate and gamers, it's believed as a fact. And then other news outlets like your CNNs and your BBCs, they take that article and use it as a source, further legitimizing it. And then eventually you get places like Wikipedia, which is compromised, by the way. Then they use these articles as fact. Now you have some crazy, outlandish claim by a bunch of feminists in the gaming space now being treated as fact because of this pipeline of information. It's a very sinister thing that you should be aware of. On top of that, as we've seen in 2024, there was the big push for Gamergate 2.0. A lot of journalists out there at your Kotakus, The Verge, all those woke news sites, they were trying to push the narrative of Gamergate 2.0, mainly centering on Sweet Baby Inc. and how they were being treated by gamers. They completely miscategorized how the entire thing unfolded. They have lied about the situation. They have lied about gamers. They have faked harassment campaigns. They've done all these things to rehash the Gamergate narrative that's been pushed by Politico and other journalists for years and years. I mean, you can just see some of the titles here. Gamergate 2.0, extremism in video games sees another reckoning. The culture war rages on in the digital world. Cis white men are up at arms again. And you have these sections talking about Sweet Baby Inc. It's obvious this is continued over and over again. And Politico has responded because people have been bearing down on them. And they're just going full denial. They're not only saying that they haven't been funded by USAID, they're saying they've received no government funding whatsoever, which is a flat out lie. Now, there are people playing the actually with this USAID number here, the 7.8 million. They're saying that USAID only supplied about 44,000 or so of that money directly. That's great and all. I think $1 is already too much. And they kind of ignore the fact that these are the awarding agencies. They break it down. If you scroll down the page, they break down where this 7.8 million is coming from. And as you can see right here, here is the top 5 awarding agencies. Guess what? They're all from the federal government. You know what that means? That is your tax-paying dollars at work. All 7.8 million of it is from U.S. taxpayers. So whether it's coming from USAID or these other government agencies, it's all coming from the pocket of the American citizen. And again, whether you're an American, you should care about it for that reason, or you're not an American, you have US taxpayer dollars going to these journalists who are trying to subvert your hobby of gaming. And they've been doing it for over a decade now. That should offend everyone in this scenario. Now, we've had multiple versions of reaction to this, really two polarized ones. People who are very scared by what's happening, or people are very excited to see the corruption being weeded out. Let's see what Vosh had to say, who's a very left-leaning political commentator and streamer.
And forgive me for being a bit self-centered for a moment. I'm sorry. I apologize. I know. They say privileged streamer. My job could go out like that. You know how crazy things are getting over here? Literally, like, at any moment. You know that? They could just say, hey, YouTube, it's un-American of you to allow left-leaning people to post videos. These communist videos are pro-China. Kablamo, I'm out. And that's a little scary. It's literally like there's no, like it's a day-by-day thing. I wake up every morning and I check. So I'm just saying, in the meantime, maybe I'm a little bit more like and subscribey than usual. You have a backup platform you're planning to go to if shit hits the fan? Yeah, there's a corner under, like right next to the 5 in downtown Seattle that I don't usually see other people panhandling on.
Nice. So, how odd to see USAID getting slashed, and immediately people like Vosh are saying they're worried about the fact they might be panhandling soon as a result of everything going on here. Well, for people like Vosh, I guess this is a taste of the other side where a lot of conservatives were being deplatformed and targeted by social media platforms for years and years. And now it seems like the pendulum at least is moving away from that side, and it has people like Vosh very shook. But here's the other side of the reaction, which is people like Asmongold, who are thrilled this is happening. This clip has definitely gone viral, and so is his video on the subject, so let's give this small section a listen.
So this is the thing, guys. I want these people to suffer because that's what they did to me. I want to set an example. Get rid of these people, put them like completely out of their jobs. Get rid of them. Make an example of them. Say, listen, this is what happens. Gamers rise up. What goes around? Yep, what goes around comes around. And we're coming. Look.
Yeah, that clip actually resonated with a lot of people. Okay, just imagine for a decade plus, for some people, a good portion of their lives, having your favorite medium, your favorite hobby, constantly targeted by now what we can say are state-sponsored actors who are trying everything to subvert your hobby, to demonize you as a person just because you wanted to play some video games. It is hard not to feel some sort of negative feeling towards the people responsible for attempting that. And no, I don't even think it's revenge. People are calling this like an attempt at revenge. I don't think this is revenge. I think this is justice. These people are getting what they deserve. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they've been doing it for so long, and they never cared what happened to the people and the industries they were targeting for their own agenda. And people are actually disagreeing with this. You can see users like this saying, you guys are genuinely so effing pathetic. It's quite literally just video games. Well, if it's quite literally just video games, then why do you care? Then why are you so happy to see things change? Why do agencies and journalists and even governments feel the need to spend so much time and money trying to change video games if they're literally just this irrelevant thing? And this is another appeal to triviality where they're saying, oh, I don't even care. Why do you care so much? Well, clearly users like this care very much about this topic. Otherwise, they wouldn't be speaking on it. They've liked how things have been going the last couple of years, and now they're mad that these things are being rejected. They're not going to influence games like they used to, and they get so mad about this fact that they're coping here with a full caps lock meltdown and spurging out about the topic. And I'm sorry, people like this must have gotten bent into a pretzel seeing Asmongold on their timeline, but I think people like this are just mad because they're losing and they can't handle it. And look at this, 8,500 likes on this tweet. Go through the quotes and the replies. I would say at best 1% of the people agree with this initial take. And that tells me that this is just not organic. But let's move back to this article from Politico. We read a small section from earlier in this video. So they mentioned Gamergate over and over again. One of the biggest proponents of Gamergate, one of the biggest adversaries, if you will, was Feminist Frequency, okay? Feminist Frequency, you kind of have to, if you know type thing. They were an absolute thorn in the side of gamers for many, many years, and still in many ways are. They have caused untold issues with the gaming spaces and among gaming journalists with their push to basically label particularly male gamers as the enemy, as something that needs to be ousted from gaming spaces, and that games need to be adjusted to get away from the male gaze and other things that they coined that are absolute woke nonsense. And it got so bad, only, a few years ago, less than a decade ago, you had these people from Feminist Frequency speaking before the United Nations about this issue involving video games. That is absolutely insane. I can't imagine two more wasteful groups in the world than Feminist Frequency and the United Nations. That is a literal nightmare blunt rotation right there. It is insufferable. But yeah, that just goes to show you how far these things can go. And now I'm seeing a lot of people passing around this screenshot of Feminist Frequency receiving about $235,000 in contributions for the year 2024. Now, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, aha, they've been sponsored by the government. Unfortunately, a lot of the screenshots of this particular piece of data, it cuts off the government grants section. And if you see here, it says $0. So they did not receive any direct money from the government. However, I point this out not only to help settle the record, but also to say they have $235,000 worth of private investments. First of all, I thought they shut their doors down like a year and a half ago, but people are still paying Feminist Frequency this much money. Why? They're completely and utterly irrelevant. They're a laughingstock. They've been for many years. It's baffling that they're still having this stream of income coming in, despite, like I said, I'm pretty sure they shut down their doors about a year and a half ago. However, people have been digging, and I wanted to show their 2022 financials because this is just, it's unreal. Again, by 2022, they were completely irrelevant, but they had these sorts of numbers. Total revenue of $569,000 just for the year 2022. Can you imagine that? And most of it came from corporate and individual donations. About, let's say, $450,000 worth. Okay? That is absolutely insane. Think about that. How do they convince individuals and corporations to give them that much money when their cause is completely moot at this point? No one supports them. Nobody likes this stuff. And if you want to see how inorganic all of this is, look at their merch sales for the year 2022. $600. So they generate $600 in merch, but can somehow generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in corporate and individual donations. And on top of that, looking at some of this stuff, what are we talking about here? Their expenditures, their total expenditures being $356,000 in 1 year. What are they spending money on? This is absolute lunacy. What are they doing? But anyways, lesson learned here. I should have been a feminist for many years because, I'd be rolling in it right now. But no, all jokes aside, what's been going on with the USAID and also some other government programs has been an eye-opening experience, not just for Americans, but people across the world. This is completely unacceptable. I don't care what your political beliefs are. You cannot possibly support this misuse of government money, of U.S. taxpayer dollars. And it's not just harming Americans, it's harming people all across the world because these people have an agenda that they're willing to use and promote and push with your money, no matter what the cost. And again, we looked at the programs. They're wackadoo. They're absolutely insane. The biggest waste of money ever. It all sounds like money laundering. I'm not even joking when I say that. You see some of the evidence here and what they're doing and how this money's being spent and the amount of it. What else does it sound like at this point? It's absolutely insane. And the fact that anyone is upset, especially when it comes to gaming, calling out this nonsense, it's really weird that anyone would have an issue with these things being finally addressed and taken care of and axed, most importantly. But that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. And again, I would also appreciate, a little off the set here, But, you know, if you're a non-American, American, having your input on this, very valuable. Definitely something I'd like to see. But anyways, that's going to do it. Hope you guys enjoy the video, and I'll see you next time.